Welcome to Real Estate Hustlers Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Appleman. Today we're joined with Natasha. She's the founder of Falconi Capital, real estate investment firm focused on acquiring and repositioning multifamily properties across South Florida to create long-term value for investors and communities. Natasha, we appreciate you coming on the show today. If you could let the listeners know a little bit more about yourself.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Like you mentioned, I'm Natasha Falconi, and I'm a real estate investor specifically focused in multifamily. Here in South Florida, I started my career as a CPA and just worked myself into real estate. Started really because I was a tax accountant and I was placed in the real estate tax department. And that's how I learned all about this. I focus on improving communities and making a difference in the areas that I invest in.
So you started out as a CPA. I'm sure you had some clients that were in real estate. You've seen how their operations worked. Tell us about your first property in real estate and how you got into it initially as an owner.
Well, initially, my first property was a condo, but I'm going to skip all the way when I first started. I'm going to skip all the way to the first building that I purchased in 2019. I bought an 8-unit building in the North Beach area of Miami Beach. And I simply started the way I chose that asset is because I started pick the area first, area that actually matched the criteria that I had, meaning a place where I could actually improve the asset, a place where I can make a difference with workforce housing and just really improve an asset and elevate it so that people really feel good about where they live, in addition to creating good returns for our investors. And so I was very lucky that I had a broker reach out to me and saw the property before it even went to market and was able to put it under contract and still hold it as of today. And it's doing wonderfully.
That's phenomenal. So you had a off-market opportunity brought to you from a broker. That's a relationship piece.
That's right.
And you like the price, you like the asset, you like the location. Tell us about what you did to improve it and create value.
Well, the first thing that we do is we basically do an operations assessment because it's very easy to say that an investment's going to do great on paper. But once you get in there and you really see what's going on, we try to focus, or we mostly focus. We're in South Florida, so we know a lot about hurricanes here. So first thing we look at and make sure that we improve windows and doors and roof. So we start on that aspect of it. And then we go inside the units and really, we do it at different levels. If a unit has already been renovated, then we go in and do any small improvements that need to be addressed. But if the unit hasn't been addressed at all, at that point, we do go in and we renovate units. And we do this as tenants move out. And the nice thing is that if we're lucky enough to have a vacancy when we buy the property and we go in and fix or renovate that, the residents in the building usually want to move into the new unit because they see what's possible or where they can live.
Oh yeah. They see the renovations. They see the new investors getting ready to put capital into the property, so they like that. Everything's going to be new. You all have, Florida now has, or not now, they've had for some time I think it's an annual inspection for structural. Is that correct?
It's not annual. It's every 10 years. So
every 10 years, yeah.
It's the first. So there's the way it works is that it's after 40 years, it gets an inspection. And then after that, it's every 10 years. And they basically check structural, mechanical, electrical, and then they railings and a few other things. But if you're maintaining your property, it's not a difficult feat. If you're not, then you're absolutely scrambling to get it done to make sure that you can keep your building habitated.
Is that creating any opportunities for buildings that don't pass the assessment, or what are your thoughts?
I think sometimes there's two areas. There's those that submit the reports and don't pass, and then they have to go through a whole permitting process to do it. And then there's others that simply get their letter advising them, because you receive the letter a year in advance, so advising them that the inspection is coming, and then they just don't do anything about it and then default. Sometimes those are opportunities, because if you don't meet certain criteria, then your building falls under the unsafe structure, whether it is or not, just because you haven't complied. And sometimes there is some opportunity to purchase assets because the current landlord may not want to go through the effort of doing the work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that could be, it's anything over 3 stories. Is that right?
Yes. I'm not sure. You know what? I don't know if it's over. No, it's over 2, because I had a building that was two stories and we had to do it. So it's 2 stories or more.
Got it. Okay. All right. I read something that was 3, so that's interesting.
Well, I
And I
just
say
did
that.
one. I just did one and it was 2.
Yeah, and I say that because there's condos. I mean, Florida's prominent for condos and buildings that are on the coastline. So I mean, that would be it could be an opportunity if an entire condo building doesn't pass, and then which I don't know how messy that gets, to where then you have to decommission the condo on HOA. And
I really don't know, because I don't invest in condos, but the rules are the same. The difference is you would pay higher, as opposed to capital from an owner. You would have association fees that would have to be addressed.
Yeah, interesting. What are since you're in Florida, what are some opportunities, or I guess some experiences that you've come up with in your years of investing that that you wish you knew then what you now know?
I believe that when I first started investing, goes back to what I mentioned before. You underwrite, and although you may be a conservative underwriter, there's many things that sometimes you don't really take into account that you don't know could happen. So the real world of really understanding during your due diligence process, and not taking for granted that just because something is painted nicely, that there's not other things that have to be done. That because it's usually the things you don't see are the most expensive, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so I would say that I know now is that I really pay attention to age of the building, and I really have more experience now of what the things to look for, depending in what type, meaning is it a 50s building, is it a 20s building, what are things that are going to be coming up that we're going to have to address. We may not have to address it now, but we need to account for that on the capital, be it in the next 1, 2, or 3 years. And if the deal looks really good without those capital dollars, you need to ask the question and pay attention to that if you're an investor.
What are some things that you've ran into that you found after you've purchased that have been an issue?
Oh, it happened to me. A 30-unit building that we purchased. It was 2-story, and the walkway, because it was a catwalk building, the walkway had about 3 layers of tile, but you couldn't tell that it had 3 layers of tile. When you saw it, everything looked great. But what we didn't notice is that water started penetrating into one of the units on the first floor through the ceiling. Well, that doesn't make any sense, because it was in an area where there was no bathroom, and it's concrete slabs all the way through. Well, we figured out at that point that the tile was not, all the levels of tile were kind of loose. So the water, the story, when water penetrates, it finds its way out, and it was finding itself out through an electrical outlet, because that was the only place that the concrete there was a hole. And I would have never checked if I would have taken you to that building, you would have never guessed that there was that problem, because everything looked fine. The tile looked fine. The fascia, everything looked perfect. But now I look at it differently. So it's a different type of inspection that I do to make sure that that's okay. First question is, how many layers of tile are on this floor? Oh, yeah. And so that's something that I learned that I wouldn't have never guessed, that cost us some capital, but we fixed it and we fixed it properly.
Got it. Are you all primarily only investing in Florida?
Only investing specifically in the Miami market.
Miami market. How has there's a lot of capital going into Miami market for sure. How has that increased the price of real estate and your all's ability to keep on investing?
I don't really like to speak towards the price of real estate. I prefer speaking in reference to returns, because if you were to buy an 8 unit in Miami and you were to buy an 8 unit anywhere else in the country, or any size unit anywhere else in the country, the rent is higher here than it is somewhere else. The question is, what's the return? And yes, it's been more difficult to find opportunities because there's more competition, but not impossible. You just need to do more reps and look at more deals.
Yeah, I like the price per square foot, or just the basis. To me, the basis is so much, because it speaks on really volumes. The return is extremely important, but I like the doomsday scenarios too, where you get what's the basis on the unit price per unit, the price per square foot, the overall just basis, and then if things do have a downturn, what is your exposure? And really, I think that can go with anywhere in the country though too. But returns are important, and capital is certainly not stopped going into Miami. I mean, we've seen that. What about insurance cost?
Well, insurance costs here are high. There's no question about that, and it's softened a bit recently. But it's if you look historically, that always happens in this market because of the exposure that we have to storms.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one thing we've seen is insurances are getting repriced. They are coming down. They're not at their all-time highs anymore. So that's helping. I mean, it's a boost on the back end. It's a tailwind now at this point.
Exactly.
So tell me, what are some other deals that you all are looking at? What are you out there underwriting right now? And are you sending out LOIs? Are you all purchasing? What's the horizon look like?
A combination of, yes, we've put a few under contract, and then on due diligence backed out. We're looking at a few deals right now. We are active investors. And where are we looking? In specific pockets here in Miami. And looking, like I mentioned before, we have to look at a lot of deals in order to secure one deal. And so that's what we're doing, speaking to brokers, speaking to owners, and just putting the word out there that we're very active in the market.
Are you all operating too?
Yes, we're vertically integrated.
Okay.
We manage all of our assets, and as well as asset management, investor relations, all of it.
Yeah, that can be a huge upper hand too. It's just keeping things in house, as long as operations are tight, managing the construction, renovations, making sure rents are being pushed. What kind of systems are you all using to asset manage?
So we use AppFolio is one of the products, which we just transitioned to them recently, actually, and it's been fabulous. And then we use other tools, management tools, like we use Trello for tracking certain activities. But we try to spend most of our time inside of the AppFolio software.
Yeah, that's what we use too. It's great out of the box, and then you can add things to it for asset tracking. We use Hello Data for our rent comps, so we can dynamically push our rents really daily or weekly if we want, just based on surrounding properties, to make sure we're at least at market. We're not looking to be the market maker, but make sure that we are competitive. We're not driving down the rents in certain areas too. We've got that integrated in with AppFolio, so we can set our pricing dynamically. That's helped out. Are you all using any kind of AI to help processes or improvements?
We use we're getting into AI more heavily now, as far as on the property management side, for like answering phone calls and things of that nature. But that's on our docket to deal with, or enhance, I should say, in the next quarter.
Yeah, for sure. That's a big part. I think it's just being integrated in with certain tools. AI can help take the load off certain things. Been using Claude Cowork, and it will go in and grab data and build us some custom dashboards that we weren't able to see before. So it's just tinkering and being a hobbyist, but being involved, and it's really cool to see how things are playing out. What are some other things you see on the horizon with multifamily, with housing in general, and Miami?
Housing in Miami is always going to do well in general. I think the most important part is to remember that if you buy right, you can, and you operate strongly. I think that is the key, the operating strongly. You can navigate the ups and downs, but in the end, especially if you're a long-term holder, from the day of purchase to the day of sale, it's always up, and in the multifamily space. So I believe that Miami is one of the strongest markets for multifamily.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. I mean, it's anywhere in Florida. I think people just visiting there, and then you see more of visiting being more long term, and then how can you invest in there? Because I'm more curious than anything. That's why I'm asking you more personal based questions about Miami and South Florida, because it is a great place to go. And then if you do want to buy or invest in there, what does it look like, and how did because property prices are totally different there than they are here in Cincinnati. So it's but then the things that you need to be aware of, like you mentioned, the 40-year inspection, and then that's it's every 10 years. Those are things that really new investors can get hung up on. If you buy a building and then you're failing at the test out of the gates, now you've got all of these costs that you didn't know about.
And know your market, because when you see, if you look at a map and you see Miami, we're talking, or South Florida, you choose. It is a big area. And not every section is the same. Like if you're looking, and I think this is true everywhere, but if you're looking to invest, really hone in on the market that you want to, choose. You mentioned rents. I know the rents of almost all the buildings in 2 square blocks of our properties, because it's very different than 2 miles away. So you want to really understand those the micro area that you choose as an investment if you're investing locally.
Yeah, and that's being smart, picking your comps, which properties are the most closely identified as your property, and making sure that you're staying within the same range. Because ultimately, when a vacancy does come, they're going to pick your property or their property, one or the other. But you want to be right there. So
exactly,
that's smart. Very cool. What are some things that you would like the listeners to know about your journey in real estate, and some takeaways that they can have?
I believe the most important thing is, if you're listening and you haven't started, start. It's never too late to get into real estate, but real estate is the path to financial freedom or generational wealth or whatever it is that it is for you. But investing in real estate is the path. Really know, if you're investing passively, make sure that you really know who your partners are, and partner first, asset second, because a good partner can handle things. And don't be focused on the very exciting part of it. Really deep dive into the day-to-day, and know that you're feel comfortable about the fact that you're working with a good operator before looking at the asset.
Yeah, that's 100% true. It's great to celebrate the purchase of an asset, but partners are everything.
Yes.
Make sure that that trust is built on performance, and there's an alignment of interest. It could be a long journey ahead if those things don't line up. So very good point. Awesome. Very good. Natasha, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, learn more about you, possibly invest with you on Miami, Florida real estate, how can they reach out and get a hold of you?
Oh yeah, well, I'm very active on Instagram, and Nat Falconi. And if you reach out, send me a DM if you want to know anything about investing, and DM me invest. And I have for your listeners, a 5-step process that I went through when I started investing to decide, to give me ideas on how to approach it. So I welcome any conversation with anyone. So please reach out.
Awesome. Natasha, definitely appreciate your time. Thank you.